Welcome to the Page by Page Book Club. I'm your host, Paige Imprint, and I bring you weekly book club meetings wherever you get your podcasts. It's that time. You voted, so I'm doing it. We are doing an Enemies to Lovers episode. Now, I'm on record as a Friends to Lovers girl, and I'm just going to say that from the jump. I think transparency is important, but I too can respect a good Enemies to Lovers moment. I really can, because this is what you all wanted, and because I'm a podcaster of the people, which we have established, we're going to be talking about it today. I feel as though Enemies to Lovers is much like hot sauce. There's a scale when it comes to the intensity. So we have mild, medium, hot, dislike to love, hate to love, enemies to lovers. You see, it's a little metaphor. Enemies to lovers is hot sauce. And I think that that's important to establish from the jump, because not all enemies to lovers is created the same. And they all serve their purpose. None of these are better than the other. I just feel like it is important to establish that they are not all the same. You see? Okay. So we've established that. I am going to be giving recommendations for each of these three intensity levels, if you will. I'm going to be doing recommendations for dislike to love, hate to love, and enemies to lovers on this episode. I'm also going to be giving you a bonus friends to enemies to lovers element of this episode. So it's going to be jam-packed with recommendations. So get your TBR out, pull up Goodreads, pull up Fable, pull up Storygraph. Till one of those platforms pays me, I'm saying them all. And get ready to be jotting some stuff down. All right? Last week's episode was a Q&A episode. I did the entire episode based off of your questions, and I bring this up because I asked you all again this week if there's anything you wanted me to be sure to cover when I filmed this Enemies to Lovers episode, and I did get a few responses. So let's start with those questions, and then we are going to dive into the recommendations. One of my good friends, Kathleen, from Kathleen's Corner, says that she wants drama. So she asked me to give her my least favorite thing about enemies to lovers. Well, okay, so I do try to keep my platforms 100% positive. So I'm going to maybe take a different spin on this than you were hoping for, but I'm sure you can tell. If you've interacted with my content, if you listen to the podcast, I am a sunshine girl. I love sunshine. I love smiling. I love being happy. I love laughing. Life is good. So I usually just enjoy sunshine. Like, you know, and Friends to Lovers kind of lends itself to that sunshiny, happy, singing in the rain. The sun is shining. The birds are chirping, you know, and I think that suits my personality very well, and I relate to it more deeply. I'm in a sunshine relationship. I am in it wasn't Friends to Lovers because, like, the moment I met him, he was mine. Dare I say insta love? It was not insta love, but it was certainly insta like. So, but he's my best friend in the whole world. So I say all of that to say that is why I love Friends to Lovers. And I suppose I lack understanding of the enemies to lovers genre because I've just never hated someone that much. Or if I did hate them, I would literally never even remotely entertain the thought of being with them. And I get that it's just a book. And I get that the tension's fantastic and fun to read. And I really do like enemies to lovers. I'm just saying that is why I prefer Friends to Lovers, I would say. I just have a harder time relating to it, but I consider myself an empathetic reader where I am primarily reading, yes, for entertainment, but also I'm trying to gain understanding of these characters and use it as an opportunity to understand the people in my life better, to understand people that are different from me, to understand myself. And so I really, really do try to get into the minds of a lot of these characters that these authors have created and written. And so I have a harder time placing myself in the shoes of someone experiencing like a hateful situation because I'm not a hateful person. So now, a little lore on the podcaster, a little lore on Page and Print. It takes a lot for me to dislike someone, but once I do, it's over. I will forgive, but I will never forget. So, I don't know. Not that that's important to the plot of this story or this podcast right now, but I don't know. I feel like y'all like getting to know me. And it's my podcast. And I'm talking to an empty room. So I'll do as I want. Okay, so that was Kathleen. I'm sorry. That wasn't as messy as you were probably hoping. But we digress. So this kind of bounces off of that and what I was just talking about. Your therapist reads smut. My dear friend Rachel asks, real talk. Do you ever struggle when they're mean? I do. I love this. Let's talk about it. I do struggle, Rachel. It is hard to watch characters be mean to each other. It really is. And sometimes, like some of the stuff they say, it is hard to come back from. I don't have anything on the very top of my mind. I will say maybe a bully romance. I've read 2 or 3 bully romances ever, and I have such like a hard two-sided relationship with them because I've liked the books, but some of the stuff they say and some of like the nasty, mean comments, for me personally, I don't know that I would ever be able to get over. And as we've established, as an empathy reader, it's like, man, if I was in your shoes, I would literally never speak to them again. And it does make it hard to be like, girl, did you hear what he said to you? And we're just going to proceed to the highlighted route? I don't know. Not me. And I think the answer is complicated. Yes, I do have a hard time with it. And I make an effort to understand. But I'm a friends to lovers girl. What do you want me to say? So, I don't know. Yes. What a thoughtful question. Listener, dear reader. Is it hard for you when characters are mean to each other? Chew on that. Think about it. Sit with that. I don't know. That's a question for all of us. I love it. Thank you, Rachel. Next up is a question from the incredible author, Alex Taylor. Alex, thank you for asking a question. She asks, this podcast is clean, so I will be censoring. She asks, what's my favorite F it moment? My favorite screw it moment, where they finally go from enemies to lovers. What I do really like about the enemies to lovers genre is, of course, the tension and the build and the like crescendo of their relationship slowly coming to a snap. Like it really does feel like a rubber band being pulled until it can't be held anymore and it does snap. And a few of those moments that I really, really loved, they're oftentimes in fantasy books. I'm going to talk about this later on in the episode, but I do feel like the enemies to lovers genre as a true enemies to lovers lends itself to fantasy romantasy much more than it does to the contemporary genre. And so most of my favorite F it moments would be from fantasy books. I'm actually, the very first one that came to mind, oddly enough, was Nesta and Cassian. I don't know that they're truly considered enemies to lovers, but she certainly didn't like him or what he stood for or represented. And when she finally gave in to her feelings for him, I loved that moment. I probably could not, at a surface level, relate less to a character than I relate to Nesta. But what an opportunity for me to understand someone so different than me. I loved being in her mind. I loved exploring why she was the way that she was. Am I going to say the cliche? I think I am. Hurt people hurt people. Hurting people as a shield and protective mechanism is so fascinating to me because it's something I would never do, but it was such a blessing to read and understand because I do have people in my life that live life from a perspective that is more aligned with Nesta's than it is with mine. And I loved getting to understand that better. I'm very grateful for it. So, sorry, little side quest. Is it the page by page book club if there's not a side quest? Let's be real. I'll say another Sarah J. Maas one just while I'm thinking of it. Throne of Glass spoilers. If you want to skip ahead a few moments. Aelin and Rowan. He hated her. oh, dude, he hated her. And when he finally got over it and got with the program, that was a crazy moment. So, love that. I'm going to be talking about actually Heir of Fire later on in this episode for a true enemies to lovers conversation. So, prep for that. Looking around my shelves, seeing if I'm missing any. Oh, A Peak Performance by Victoria Wilder is a really interesting one. So the premise of this book is he is set, it's the fourth book of the series, and you've gotten to meet all of his other siblings in all of the other books. And he is set to take over as CEO of the company. However, he's a bit immature, and so his dad feels as though he's not ready to take over the position. And so he decides to outsource the position. And who does he outsource it to? But their rival company family's daughter, who is overlooked for the role as CEO in lieu of her fiance at the time. And he offers her the job, and she takes over as CEO. So she has his job. And they're neighbors, and the tension's really great. And it's not enemies to lovers, where it's like they're true enemies, but it's very much a dislike to love from his perspective of, you have my job. And from her perspective, you want my job. And I'm going to prove not only you, but the world and industry wrong by successfully leading this company. I think that this book is so underhyped. That was one of my recommendations for my dislike to love section here. So I have jumped the gun a little bit, but their F it moment is really, really good. Really love that one. So thank you for asking, Alex. That's a great question. And that is like the hallmark of enemies to lovers. And for me, as a friends to lovers girl, one of the elements of enemies to lovers that's just undeniable. The moment where the switch flips, where one of them gives in, because very rarely is it mutual, like at the same moment, one of them, and we love it when it's him, is like, yes, I'm going to give in to this mutual attraction finally. Oh, it's so satisfying. It's so satisfying. Yes. All right, so let's dive straight into some of these talks of our various intensity levels of enemies to lovers. Let's go ahead and dive in with dislike to love. We'll work our way up to true enemies to lovers. A few dislike to love books that I always like to recommend include Steal My Heart by Laura Pavlov, which is a workplace boss's daughter. He's supposed to mentor her, and he's just kind of in a bad mood about having to mentor his boss's daughter. He's like, oh, another thing to do before I make partner. And she is fantastic at everything she does, and she's gorgeous, and she's funny because of course she is. And he falls for her, as he should. But he dislikes her off the bat and kind of treats her as such. And so she dislikes him in return. I wouldn't say he hates her. I wouldn't say she hates him. So that is why this falls under the dislike to love category for me. But it's really great. Small town, dislike to love romance. Next is Among the Heather by Samantha Young. I'm not talking about this book enough, and I need to step it up. Among the Heather is about our FMC, who's the manager of this luxury estate for the film and television industry set in the Scottish Highlands, and our MMC, who's an actor who's a member of this club. And he is attracted to her, undeniably, and she kind of wants nothing to do with it. And so she has dated actors in her past because her dad is a director, and she is like, I'm not going to make this mistake again. I'm not going to do this to myself again. And in an effort to keep him at arm's length, does get a little bit of a toot, a little bit of an attitude with him. And that results in a little dislike to love headbuttingness. I just got a text from Molly Goins. Everyone say hi to Molly. I really like the tension between these two, and there's an added layer to this story. Not only does she dislike the idea of him, the kind of playboy actor, pretty boy, she also dislikes herself and isn't confident in herself and is really, really hard on herself. She's a curvy FMC, and her sister's like supermodel. Her mom's like a legitimate supermodel. Her sister might as well be a supermodel, and I think her mom places a lot of pressure on her. And with a lot of these enemies to lovers stories, and dare I take it into the real world, when people are mean to you, when people maybe leave a hate comment, my automatic reaction as a creator is like, oh, I wonder what's going on with them that makes them feel like leaving a comment like this or making a comment like this makes them feel better, makes them feel like this is the right thing to do. It's always, to me, a projection of what is going on in their heart that makes them feel like being mean is the answer. Because I never in a million years would dream about leaving a hate comment, making a mean comment to someone, not on purpose. I bring this up in the context of enemies to lovers because I love when the authors place that element into the characters of, are they being rude and mean because they dislike you, the MMC or whoever, or the FMC? Or are they being rude and mean because they dislike themselves or something about themselves or something that you represent? I love when authors are able to provide such a perspective on their characters that we are curious about that. So, Among the Heather by Samantha Young is a really great example of such an experience. Next on my list was A Peak Performance, but we've already touched on it. So we move on to All the Missing Pieces by Catherine Cowles. Again, another example of dislike to love, where she's a true crime podcaster, shows up in his town, he's the sheriff, and she has a personal connection to this case, but so does he. And she is uncovering things, and he wants her to stay in her lane. And this is a dislike to love scenario where they're kind of just getting in each other's way, and their emotional connection to this case brings up a lot for both of them. And the things that each of them represent to each other results in this tension and element of dislike. Love it. Beautifully done. It's a romantic suspense, and it is a standalone. I feel like Flawless by Elsie Silver, another prime example of dislike to love. If you have not read Chestnut Springs, this is the first book in that series. He's a bull rider, and he gets into a little bit of PR trouble, and so his agent assigns his daughter, so the agent's daughter, to essentially babysit our MMC Rhett for the duration of the PBR season. And he does not want a babysitter. And to be fair, what grown man wants a babysitter? And she does not want to be babysitting. And so they both resent each other. So there's that element of dislike to love. But the tension, again, phenomenal. So not to analyze each of these characters and like why they dislike each other, but I do find it to be so interesting. Tempt Our Fate by Kat Singleton, another example. Small town enemies to lovers. He's a billionaire and buys an art studio. He's an art curator next to her coffee shop. And she wanted to buy the building or buy the space to expand, and he bought it instead. And from the jump, they just butt heads. She does not take his crap, if you will. We keep it clean right now on the pod. I wouldn't consider them hate to love, truly. I do think it was a misunderstanding, but the type of FMC that she was, so fiery, spitfire, sassy, strong, does add an additional oomph to the dislike to love pieces of the story. So little billionaire coffee shop owner for you. Oh, underrated book, Strong and Wild by Sloane St. James. Second book in the Lakes Hockey series. Oh, this one's interesting. So she is a pastry chef. She has dreams of opening this like pastry cocktail bar type thing. I can't remember. Please forgive me. As you know, I do this podcast off the top of the dome. And he is a hockey player, and they live across the hall from each other in an apartment building. And he keeps to himself. He's a rookie on the hockey team, and it's just like, you know what? Like, I'm keeping to myself. He has a lot going on with his family. And she, another spitfire, strong FMC character. And she has a paid social media platform to perform activities at a cost. You see what I'm saying? You're a smart individual. She has one of those where she bakes in the nude. I'm pretty sure. If I'm remembering correctly, or at least promiscuously bakes. She promiscuously bakes like legitimately bakes things. But he so happens to be a subscriber, and he finds out quickly that she is this online personality, but he doesn't want her to know that he's a subscriber. It's so interesting. So he decides he's going to make her hate him. That's a good angle. That was a good angle of this trope. So it's kind of one-sided. Like, she hates him and he's obsessed with her. So I took it down from hate to dislike for that reason. But if you have not read that book, you should. It's spicy. It's really spicy. So heads up there. A few honorable mentions here for this one too. One Touch by Lena Hendricks, a little ex-boyfriend's brother, forced proximity. It's like, if you like HGTV, if you like Fixer Upper, this is the one for you. Small coastal tourist town in Michigan. Forbidden Hearts by Corinne Michaels is a single dad nanny romance. Living Romeo by Laura Pavlov. Okay, now we're going to go to secret spice level. This is maybe a mango habanero, if you will. A little sweet and spicy. And that would be Friends to Enemies to Lovers. This one is a rare one, I feel, but I have a few recommendations. The first is going to be Echoes of Scotland Street by Samantha Young. It's from her On Dublin Street series, and they work at a tattoo parlor together. He's a tattoo artist. She is hired to work front desk, and she's really attracted to him. He's really attracted to her. In fact, they met each other like years ago and like really hit it off, but lost touch. And she just got out of a really nasty relationship, and very much so, like Among the Heather, is like, I cannot fall for him. I cannot be in a relationship like this. I cannot do this again. And so she kind of makes assumptions about him to his face, and he's like, you know what? Fine. So they start off as friends, and then she makes these assumptions, and he's like really disappointed that she made these assumptions about him, and rightfully so. They fall into a Friends to Enemies, so like love to hate. I feel like Friends to Enemies to Lovers at its core is like to hate to love, or even love to hate to love. Like, enemies is a really strong word. But that's what exactly happens here. Finally, they have a screw it moment. They fall for each other. She opens up to him. It's beautiful. Samantha Young is just the queen of this. Another book from her, Always You. And this one is crazy. It's the third book in the Adair family series. The MMC in this book is the FMC's brother's bodyguard. Are you with me? He is her brother's bodyguard. Her brother's a former retired actor, very famous. They've been around each other their whole lives. This is an age gap, maybe like 12 years. And she's always had feelings for him. Always had feelings for him. And he has never really reciprocated, but he kind of does start to fall for her. And so she makes a move, and he really embarrasses her. He stops her, and he's not necessarily mean about it, but he's not the kindest about it. And she's like, I have loved you for so long, and you have thrown me so many mixed signals, and you made me believe that you wanted me. I'm done. And so she walks out on him, and Samantha can write some groveling. She'll write a grovel, and he goes to therapy for her, and he fights for her, and it's good. Yeah. So that's a little Friends to Enemies to Lovers moment. Loved to Hate to Love. Tattletale by Kay Cove starts off with them being in love. The book prior, you kind of watch them be friends as side characters, and then at the beginning they finally admit they're in love with each other, and then she admits to him that she's going to do something that will legitimately get her killed, point blank. And so he tattletales on her to the boss, and it's like, hey, she's going to do this, and betrays her trust, but to save her life, and she can't forgive him for that. Love to Hate to Love. And then the most recent one is Merit by Devony Perry. I know I spent like 6 minutes talking about this book in one of my recap episodes, and I'm just going to say it again. This book changed me. The perspective this book provided me on grief, on loving someone through grief, on grieving someone while they're still alive. I need to stop while I'm ahead, but they were childhood friends. And then, like, when they reached adolescence, they both kind of offended each other, were a little bit mean to each other on the playground, and never really forgave each other for that. So it was like a childhood friends to like nemesis? Nemesis? I'm just going to keep going. I'm not even going to look it up. You're going to probably be yelling at me in your car driving down the highway telling me what the actual word is, but yeah. So there's that. Gosh, I've been recording for a while. I need to get a move on. But yes, merit. So good. So those are my friends to enemies to lovers. It's a little hybrid of my fave trope and enemies to lovers. So we move on to hate to love. Now we move into the medium hot sauce. We move into hate to love. And there's some hate here. There's some bad blood. But to constitute someone as your enemy, there just has to be something so feral, so bone deep, that hate is just a step down. Like, I hate you, but like, I don't wish you unalived, you know? Great example of this from Catherine Cowles is Tattered Stars. It's the first book in the Tattered and Torn series, and he hates her. He hates her because her dad kidnapped his sister. Now, keep in mind that she saved his sister. Amidst all of this, her dad was a part of a religious, like, doomsday cult, and she saved her, but he hates the FMC because of kind of what her family represents to his family. And it's like, well, you can't blame him. Now, is she her dad? No. But it is a one-sided hate to love, but I think it's done very well. I think the reasoning and the core of it is very clear, and I really, really like that about this book. Steel King by Devony Perry. So he is the former motorcycle club president, and she is the new to town news reporter, and she's trying to uncover a story on his disbanded motorcycle club. And so there is quite a bit of hate involved in that, where he hates that she's digging up their past. She hates what she assumes he stands for. It's a cool story, and it's the start of a series where the romantic suspense carries throughout the entire series, which is really fun. It's only one of 2 series that I've read like this, and it reads so much like a TV show where you're just having to go to the next episode, or in this case, the next book, to truly understand what's going on. So, Cash by Jessica Peterson, I do think is a true hate to love because she inherits her dad's ranch, but her dad promised the ranch to him. And she's a city girl. He's the ranch foreman, so he's been running this ranch for years and years. She hasn't really spoken to her dad. He spoke to him every day. So he hates her, and she hates him. And I've mentioned this before about Cash, but what I love about their story is that both of them were willing to be wrong. And I love reading that humility. And this one didn't really pull taut. It was kind of like a slow, like, deceleration, which I liked. I liked that cadence. I liked that feeling. And so, you all know I'm a huge Cash fan. How about a deep cut Elsie Silver, Off to the Races, her first book in her debut series. So I think this was her debut. He owns this ranch and horse training facility and hires her to be the trainer over the summer. But her name is kind of a flex name where it could be a guy's name, could be a girl's name. I think it's Spencer or like Scotty or, oh gosh. Why wonder when I can know? Billy. It's Billy. Well, close, but not close. So he thought he was hiring a man. What is it with men? And he kind of assumes when she arrives that she is trying to like sleep with him or hook up with him, or I don't know. She's being sent by his mother to be set up with him, and he is really rude to her about it. And she's like, no, I don't think so. You will not speak to me that way. And so they don't like each other at all. So that's fun. Devony Perry's The Bully. This is a bully romance. Well, he kind of bullied her in high school. And what's so wild about this story, it's the 4th book in the Calamity Montana series, is that so he helps her move in. It's kind of a long story. They have a mutual friend, but he helps her move in and ends up stealing one of her journals because he like realized that she had written about him in it, and it's journals from high school, and she kind of details the way he hurt her, and he's reading it and falling for her through these journals and kind of realizing and reconciling what he did to her. And he stole this journal, mind you, and it's a really cool perspective and take on this. That book's not talked about enough. It is really, really wild and interesting. So those are some hate to loves. Shall we move on to enemies to lovers? What constitutes a true enemies to lovers scenario to me is like, it is bone deep. It is personal. It is cursing your bloodline. It is wishing true ill will on this person. It is so beyond personal, and it's just soul deep. So I really, really do feel as though in a fantasy scenario, it is so much easier to have a true enemies lover situation because there's war. There are lives on the line. There are family curses. Your family betrayed their family. Like, your kingdom betrayed theirs. You're being sent to his kingdom as his bride. Like, there are true things that call to be someone's enemy in a romantasy scenario. I am going to be speaking on a few fantasy books here for the next few minutes. So if you want absolutely no spoilers about, let's see, the Empyrean series, Fourth Wing, the Massiverse, so Sarah J. Maas, A Court of Thorns and Roses, Throne of Glass, Crescent City, the Eversea series by L.J. Andrews, please skip ahead a little bit. Okay? Rhysand very much so positions him in a way for Farah to dislike him until he cannot any longer. I mentioned this earlier in the episode, but need we not forget Throne of Glass spoilers, Heir of Fire. Rowan punches Aelin in the face. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not misremembering, he tells her she should have died. That's enemies to lovers. That'll do it. Yeah, that'll do it. The Eversea series, Eric Bloodsinger. Her family killed his dad. They imprisoned him. Now, that's way more complicated. But yeah, it's like, okay, in a fantasy scenario, enemies to lovers, that's legit. But I do have a few contemporary examples. Now, I'm going to do another little subsection here because we did fantasy. I do want to say Mafia also lends itself. Mafia Motorcycle Club lends itself to truer enemies to lovers moments because illicit affairs make people very, very, very angry. And so I have to cite The Predator from the Darkverse Runix. Tristan Kane hates bone deep hates Marana. She doesn't know why. It's one-sided, but he hates her. But he also loves her. And the reason why, dude, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. If you have not read The Darkverse, you absolutely should. I will preface by saying I have not read the last book yet. But up until this point, I guess the 5 books that I have read, unreal. They do have to be read in order. They are all really, really great. Please read them in order, and please know that I have not read the last book, so I cannot speak on it. The first 2 books follows the same couple, and they in particular. That is his enemy. The Mattis Obsession, this is a mafia romance as well. I think that gives very true enemies to lovers, so I'm going to switch over here to some contemporary examples. Fireline by Maggie Gates. I've talked about it before, but I'm going to talk about it again. She punches him in the face. She hates him. They hate each other so much. He wishes ill will on her. He tries to sabotage her. She wishes ill will on him after that, for that matter. Like, dang. Guilty Minds by Ariana Kane. So this is the second book in the Little Hope series. It's a small town romance series. And Little Hope is a really interesting series because it is dark. It is not mafia. There are no, like, I don't know, gangs, motorcycle clubs, mafia, like none of that. But it's just the stuff that goes on in this town is dark. you're going to read it, check your trigger warnings. But book 2 is a bully romance. He genuinely hates her so deeply, bullies her for years, and she's so in love with him. It is so angsty. It is so feral. Like, I actually need to go back and read that series. I read this series like before I ever had an online bookish presence, so back in 2023, and I don't think I appreciated the series the way I would now. I need to go back. But yeah, that one in particular, like, oh my gosh. That's Enemies to Lovers. Wrath of Love by Vanessa Stock. This is another motorcycle club. It's actually motorcycle club and mafia romance. Is a Greek mythology retelling. So a lot of the characters are based off of Greek mythology. It's really, really neat. And the MMC is part of this motorcycle club gang, and her family is a mafia family. They've her brother and the MMC have teamed up and own a nightclub together, but her brother ends up being killed, and she ends up being betrothed to his brother. Wild ride. Every time I thought I knew what was coming next in that book, I did not, but the enemies to lovers of it all, where she doesn't trust him, he doesn't trust her, but he's also so attracted to her, and she's betrothed to his brother. Like, yeah, that'll do it. The last series I want to talk about to wrap this up, true contemporary enemies to lovers, is the Dream series by Natasha Madison, specifically book 1 and book 3, Shattered Dreams and Buried Dreams. Oh, they loathe each other. So here's the deal. 6 young adults were involved in an extremely tragic accident that resulted in the death of 2 of them. There are 4 survivors. And book 1 follows the FMC, who was at the time dating the driver who ended up passing away in the accident, and he was at fault. The driver was at fault. He had been drinking and driving, and the MMC of this book found out that she knew that he had been drinking and blames the accident on her. Well, the other person who passed in that accident was his girlfriend at the time. And so he blames her for the death of his girlfriend. And she's been away for years and years and years and comes back because her dad is sick. And there's like a magnetic pull between them. And there's a lot of physical chemistry between them. And so they do like explore that physical chemistry while they, specifically him, still hates her. Loathing, deep, bone deep hate. That's why I say it's like a true enemies to lovers, because it's like he blames her for something so significant. It's crazy. So that's that story. And then book 2 does not follow anyone involved with the accident. It's the FMC from the first book's brother. It's unrelated, but the last book follows the other 2 survivors of the accident, and they were actually dating at the time of the accident. And I talked about it a few episodes ago, but he was asked to testify in favor of the driver in court and was kind of blackmailed and threatened about it. But she said if he did it, he did not say he was being blackmailed or threatened. He just said that he was going to do it. And she was like, if you do this, I'm going to leave. And then he did it and she left. It was like that little quote from my podcast last time. Yeah, it was that. But like, because he testified in defense of the driver, she like really, really hated him. And then he kind of went on a bender after that, after she left and after all this happened, and ended up getting someone else pregnant. And he had a daughter by someone else and married someone else. And obviously that like broke the FMC. And so she's back in town again because her mom is sick. And they end up like, they just hate each other. So again, another true contemporary enemies to lovers scenario, a whole series, if you will, small town romance, high angst. So those are some of my recommendations. Sorry to go on and on and on, but that's what you sign up for, isn't it? We yap around here. We yap. We have a good time. It's silly. It's goofy. So thank you for being here. I hope, even as a certified friends to lovers girl, that I gave you some recommendations for enemies to lovers that you enjoy. All of these books were phenomenal. I really enjoyed all of them. I would love to know if you have read any of these. If you plan on reading any of these, please let me know. I am once again asking for people to reach out to me after listening to the podcast because I know y'all are listening. I can see the numbers and nobody does. Nobody ever reaches out. Whatever. But yes. Okay. I'm going to silence myself. I'm going to be done. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I'll see you in the next one.